Hi, I'm Don Egan. I'm the founder and director of RSVP Trust, where lives are transformed and the poor are empowered, and this is the way of peace. Thanks for joining me on this new series of The Way of Peace, where we look at ways to find peace in your life. I suppose for me, pursuing peace has been a lifelong task, really. And in this series, we're going to look at different ways that you can use to manage stress in your life, and maybe some change of habits that could really bring lasting and continual peace to your life. Obviously, we're going to have ups and downs in life. Stuff comes at us that we don't have any control of. But there are things we can do and ways we can live that will help us live a much more peaceful life. Now, the list of things we can do to bring about a more peaceful life is very long, so we're just going to tackle one or two in each video. Today, as we're at the start of a new year, and please God that 2021 is a lot better than 2020. We've still got some way to go with this virus thing, but I'm praying and believing and hoping that this year will be much more positive than last year. So one of the things that people often do at the start of a new year is make New Year's resolutions. Personally, I haven't done that for years. My reason is you can write down 6 or 7 things that you resolve to do this year, and really before the middle of January, certainly by the end of January, you failed at most of them. So for me, setting up a handful of resolutions like that at the beginning of the year that you're not going to be able to keep, there's just too many things to do, along with all the other stuff that life throws at us, you're really setting yourself up for failure. So before the end of January, because of something you've done, you'll start feeling like a failure. So today's message is really about just doing one thing. I try to live my life on the basis of faith within, and so I'm just going to look at a few things that the Bible says, but really the message is one thing. What's the one thing that you should be doing this year to live a more peaceful life? And I have to say, in past years, just doing one thing and focusing on that has in some years been very transformational. Something that St. Paul wrote to his friends at Philippi I find helpful. He said, "This one thing I do." So what was the one thing he did that he feels he needs to comment on to his friends in Philippi? There's one thing I did, forgetting what's behind and straining or pressing towards what's ahead. Now let's think about that a moment. Originally, Paul was Saul, who was a persecutor of the Christians. He had Christians put to death, many of them. But now through an encounter with Christ, he's become one of these Christ followers. One of the people that he was trying to put to death, get executed, or get legal documents to have them executed. So you can see his whole mindset has changed. At one moment persecuting the followers of Christ, and then becoming a follower of Christ, and then having a new revelation about the way forward. And so I'd imagine the people he was involved in putting to death weighed heavily on Paul's mind. And if you have big regrets like that in your life of stuff that happened in the past, in Paul's case that you were responsible for, but I think it also works with stuff that was done to us that we weren't responsible for, but stuff that just happened to us that was really painful. We can still take Paul's advice. So the one thing to do this year, if that's your issue, that things from the past haunt you, the one thing you could focus on this year is forgetting what's behind. And I know that's easier said than done. It definitely is very difficult. But if it's the one thing we focus on, forget your other resolutions for this year. But this one thing that we focus on is going to be putting the past behind us and looking to the future and pressing on towards that. That could be the one thing. Like Paul said, that was the one thing that he did. Another verse in the Bible is in the book of Psalms, and it talks about a different one thing. One thing I ask of the Lord, this is what I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, and gaze upon the beauty of the Lord, and seek him in his temple. What the writer's talking about is this meditation of the divine, meditation of God, gazing on God, and being still and just thinking about who we are, where we are, who is God, where is God, and also discovering God in us, God in our hearts. Today we hear a lot about mindfulness, and people meditate with all sorts of different faith beliefs, but there is something proven scientifically about meditation, that it brings calm, it brings peace, and it de-stresses the human mind, and in some cases the human body too. And so maybe one thing you need to do this year is to be still, to be silent, to gaze on God, however you find to do that. Perhaps some other people realise and feel guilty that they've just been very self-centred over the years, and it's really not brought them peace, it's actually brought them a lot of trouble. And in Mark chapter 10 we read the story of a very rich man who comes to Jesus asking Jesus the way to God or the way to be in the kingdom of heaven. And Jesus says he just needs to do one thing. Jesus sees that the wealth and riches are actually holding this man back. Now a lot of us think if we had unending funds and we could just do anything we like, we'd be happy. But this man didn't have peace. And when Jesus looked at this man, and it does say that he looked at him, he saw that what was weighing him down was actually his wealth instead of setting him free. Now it may not be true for everyone, but it was for this man. And so Jesus says there's one thing you need to do, is to sell all your possessions and give your money to the poor. Now Jesus didn't say this to everyone, but this man was asking how he could enter the kingdom of heaven. And Jesus got to know him, gazed on him and saw or perceived that what was holding him back was indeed his wealth. And so Jesus thought if this guy could be set free from the wealth and the burden of the wealth, he actually would be free and enter the kingdom of heaven. So it may be, if you feel that you've focused on yourself too much in life, that maybe this year the one thing you could do is just look out for the poor. Just look out for someone you could help who's worse off than you are. And certainly if you don't know where to find poor people, that's what we at RSVP do. We help the poor, predominantly in Rwanda and other parts of Africa, but also in the UK too. So if you're having trouble finding someone poor that you can help, contact RSVP and we will connect your donation, your giving, whatever you want to give, we'll connect it to the poor, and then we'll let you know what we did with your gift. But really, it doesn't have to be that. It could be anything. It could be someone you meet on the street, a homeless guy or a homeless woman you find on the street who's got absolutely nothing, and you see a way you could help and maybe chat to them and see what they need in their life. So maybe that's the one thing that you could do this year if that's your issue. And the final one thing I want to talk about is this story of Mary and Martha in Luke chapter 10. So you may be familiar with the story. Jesus has come to town, he's visiting someone's house, two sisters that he knows. One of them sits at his feet waiting for him to speak. So it's like the guru, like the teacher has come. You know, thousands have followed him all over the Middle East, all over Jerusalem and Israel. And now the guy's actually come to their house. So she's going to try and get as much as she can, as much wisdom as she can out of Jesus. So she sort of sits down at his feet and listens to him. That's Mary. She sits down and listens to him. Now her sister Martha, on the other hand, she's sort of baking the food, running around, cleaning the house, getting stuff ready. She's kind of busy with all the mundane stuff that has to be done. But you know, the special visitor is here, and maybe we just need to be still. And that's what Jesus actually says. And then what Martha does is she gets annoyed with her sister Mary, who is, you know, not helping out. And she sort of prevails on Jesus to say, you know, will you tell her off? Will you tell her to get up off her butt and come and help me with the housework and the preparations? And Jesus said, Martha, Martha, you're upset and worried about many things, but only one thing is needed. So Jesus comes back to the one thing. And he says that Mary has chosen the better part. So again, like the words from the psalm that we looked at a moment ago, this is about being still before Christ, listening to him. And it's also a picture of prayer. Prayer isn't just coming with a shopping list. God help me, God help me win the lottery, God help this, God help that. Deep prayer is actually coming and being still and silent. And we'll look at that in a future video. But I want to leave you with that thought today, because I really do believe it will bring you peace if you forget the New Year's resolutions. And I noticed on social media, once the new lockdown was announced, a lot of people I follow sort of said, well, that's dry January out of the window. So they had a resolution just to get through January without alcohol. But once the lockdown was announced, they've abandoned that resolution. So I would say, and if you're doing dry January, do feel free to carry on. But I would say whatever your resolutions are, put them to one side and be still and quiet and prayerful and meditate for a while as soon as you can get a chance to do that. And just ask yourself this question: what's the one thing that I should focus on this year? And I really do believe if you find out what for you is the one thing that you should focus on, that will be much more productive and much more beneficial to you in your life and in your peace. So if you found this video helpful, maybe you could help me by hitting the red subscribe button and the little bell icon, and then you'll get notifications of new videos. Also, I'm serious, if you want to help the poor through RSVP Trust, you just go to rsvptrust.co.uk/donate, and we'll make sure your donation goes to our work helping the poor in Africa or the UK. Another thing you could do to help me is to click the share button on this video and share it with a friend if you think it'd be helpful to them. Let others know. And together over this year, I'm hoping that we can go this way of peace and look at different things we can do in our life, both spiritual, physical and mental, that will help us in our walk of peace and our pursuit of peace. Thanks for watching today, and I'll see you in the next video.